Hello, welcome back to Geeky Clinicians podcast. As always, I am your chief geek here at Geeky Clinicians. I am Dr. Deborah Dantzler, and today we have an amazing guest, Marcia Blane, and I'll introduce her in a second, but let the other Geeky Clinicians introduce themselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mona Taki. I am a resident geek here, and I am the Geeky Clinical Yogi.
Excellent. Welcome. And so today we have the privilege and the honor of having our guest, Marcia Blane, LPC, CPCS, CHT, and CCTS. Lots of letters behind that name. We're going to get into that, right? And so Marcia has over 15 years experience. She's a seasoned public speaker and licensed professional counselor, as I said. She specializes in trauma, empowerment, personal transformation. Marcia is passionate about helping individuals break free from the chains of the past and live their life on purpose and freedom, with freedom. Her dynamic presentations are known for their authenticity, relatability, and profound impact. She leaves audiences inspired and empowered to take action. And hopefully that's how we leave here today, inspired to take action and empowered. Excellent. Thank you so much. So Marcia, please welcome.
Thank you to the Geeky Clinician podcast. I was so excited to see that you all had begun this podcast. I've been a podcast host for almost 5 years. It is not the easiest task to get started, to build all of the momentum and things of that nature. I'm just elated to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, thank you for coming. And so Marcia, the way we kind of start, it's just a conversation, right? We like to get geeked up about all things clinical, right? So we are very passionate about the work that we do with clients. So I want to know what was your clinical journey to becoming a geeky clinician? Go all the way back. Earliest interest in doing this therapeutic work.
I love to tell the story of how I began this journey in mental health. In the 11th grade of high school, I was introduced to my first psychology class. My high school teacher also taught at one of the local universities, so he taught us as if we were college students, which was amazing to me. And from that point, I wanted to be a pediatric neurosurgeon. And so while I don't use my hands to help change the brain, I use the tools and the skills, my mouth and my authentic nature to help redirect cognitive behavioral issues to go past the trauma. So that journey went a little different from most, because most people go to college straight out of high school and then they get all their degrees and then they're ready to go. So I went to college straight out of high school, but I got pregnant. So I left college and it took me 15 years to get back in school to get my bachelor's. I got my bachelor's at 40. I did my master's at 45, and then I began the process of working on my PhD. That's a whole nother story. A lot of drama behind that, but I love watching people break through their trauma. I love being able to help them to identify where their foundational roots are in their trauma that is directing their behavioral responses, getting the healing that they deserve, and then living their most authentic life. So that's my simple journey. I am a clinical hypnotherapist. I do offer sound bowl therapy as well. And I am, of course, a clinical supervisor. So really helping new therapists to their journey of licensure is another passion that I have.
Oh, those are wonderful things. And I can't wait to learn a little bit more about each of those. Actually, as a sound bowl practitioner, Mona is also a sound bowl practitioner.
Yes.
Yes, I love that. I love it. I love that the fact that we're all moving into some holistic approaches, not necessarily overindulging in medication and things of that nature, but teaching people how to heal from inside out. So love that, Mona. Love it.
Yes. Yeah, it's so beneficial, right?
Mhm.
And the vibrations and the frequency from the sound healing really kind of brings the client into, okay, what am I feeling and how is this resonating with my body,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love it. And I can't wait to when we finish, I'm actually going to do a recording, a sound bowl recording, because there's so much negative energy in the atmosphere right now. I want to put something out there that people can listen to, relax, disconnect from the anxiety so that it does not attach to its body. So yeah, love that for you.
Yes, love that you're doing this work because it's so needed.
Yeah, yeah.
So Marcia, how did you first get introduced to doing sound bowl therapy? Um, and was that connected to your journey and your trauma work, right? Because obviously we know that the body doesn't lie, right? Like it keeps the score and all that, right? So the idea of this somatic work of using using the sound bowls, and having that connect with healing people and their trauma from their trauma. So we're going to kind of learn a little bit more about what your introduction to that was.
So for me, I've always looked for ways of natural healing. I've always been one to believe that we come to this planet with everything that we need inside of our own bodies. We don't have to have a lot of extra stuff to get to a healing. So as I began to do a lot of research and I wanted to find out what were some other tools that I could utilize, I bumped into sound bowl therapy and went in. I first started with clinical hypnotherapy, which
Mm.
helped me to bridge over to sound bowl therapy because it brought in all of those holistic perspectives and being able to heal from the inside out. So I offer individual sound bowl therapy sessions where I may go on site to someone's home because they're feeling something going on in their body, and we'll come together. I do group opportunities as well. People come and say, "Hey, I'm having an event. Can you come and do the sound bowl?" Mine is a little unique because I walk them through affirmations. I talk to them about their body and their mind and how they can connect and what the reason is for sound bowl. You know, oftentimes people, first we have to remove the religious stuff out of the way because it tends to cause people to freeze up and not really understand. So once they get educated on it, they recognize that, oh, wait a minute, I literally feel something in my body. Or they go into this beautiful place of release. And every time I see that, I see their breathing change, I see their movement change. It's empowering to just watch. So anything holistic, I will gravitate towards because, again, I just think that our bodies have everything that we need. We just may need a coach, but we have what we need.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And I feel like you're right here in the right place. And you truly are a geeky clinician with us because I'm a Reiki master. Yamona is a yoga master, yoga teacher.
Mhm.
So, and then so we all and you're hypnotherapy, and so this is like this approach, this natural energy,
Mhm.
holistic, um, a somatic orientation to working with our clients
Yeah.
that have experienced trauma,
Mhm.
right? And so I want to ask the question in terms of working with clients and their trauma. I
Mhm.
know that you did a presentation at for LPCGA, and I love that it was called Normalizing Emotional Safety and Narcissism.
Mhm.
And so I want to learn a little bit more about um, how you interwove that kind of messaging around healing and as your in your expertise as a trauma specialist
Mhm.
into this kind of concept of normalizing emotional safety?
But one of the things, especially in our community, we are not privy to being safe expressing our emotions. We're told to put this cape on. And that, I mean, in the medical field, it's believed that we can endure excessive levels of pain without care. Um, One of my biggest finds when working on my dissertation was acknowledging that in 1892, the American Psychological Association has in their notes that the Blacks aren't considered cognitively sufficient, so therefore wouldn't need mental health care. It's a reminder and a staunch reminder that our trauma transcends through and transverse through our ancestral lineage. And in order to begin to address what that trauma is, I take clients back as far as their brain will allow, usually 2 or 3 years old, for them to identify what's going on. And then we start talking about grandmama and mama and all of them and daddy, because all of that attaches itself to our DNA. And in that attachment, most people, especially again in our community, we don't know why we will act out of haste, out of irritability, out of frustration, out of anger. And we don't understand that our anger isn't really anger. It's a secondary emotion to the unprocessed trauma that we are associated with. And so when I began to do this trauma work, I also recognized that the narcissistic traits versus narcissistic personality disorder, we honestly all have some form of narcissistic trait. Why? Because it is a safety mechanism of defense. It is our right to say, no, I don't like that, or no, I'm not going to allow that. The personality trait comes into play when it's at a space of, I'm going to guilt you or gaslight you into a space. So how do we create and normalize those safe spaces? One, you have to establish those boundaries. You have to, one, identify who you are through your trauma. Identify.
Wait. Say more right there. Wait. Back up. Say that again, please.
You have to identify who you are through your trauma. That's number one.
Yes.
Number two, you have to recognize that individuals in your life that may have aided the trauma in you are not your responsibility. Number three, you have a right to disconnect and disassociate from their attempt to demean you because of trauma. And that's any kind of trauma. I know that oftentimes people focus more on like sexual trauma. They focus more on mother, father issues. I call it mama, daddy, sister, them, all of them. Trauma. They focus on those things, but what they fail to recognize is in the baseline of trauma, it could be that you called me ugly and I never got past that. It could be that you told me I had no value or that you hated me. I talked with a client earlier today who is still railing at the fact that her father called her a female dog 20 years ago, and she couldn't move past it. And as we were dealing with that trauma and that association, I had to say to her, you do realize that your father was emotionally dysfunctional. He had no idea how to be emotionally present and to be your daddy. He just donated the sperm to be your daddy. That didn't make him your daddy. That made him the man that helped fertilize the seed in order for you to be there. So, we often walk into this space of presumed ideas of what parents need to look like, what siblings need to look like, and how everybody is supposed to act. And that is where we line our disappointment. That's where our anger, that's where our frustration, our irritability, that's where our lack of belonging and the normalizing presentation. I talked a lot about the need to belong and how that need impacts your trauma base because you're constantly looking for the external validation that sometimes never comes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You said a word right there. Yes. The idea that these things lay so deep and dormant in us, and we just don't even have language for understanding their impact sometimes.
Right.
And I was talking with somebody yesterday about kind of the invisible trauma of neglect
And abandonment and rejection.
rejection, abandonment, neglect, right? And the idea that we had expectations of mama and them, right? That they would love us, protect us, care for us, and more than just shelter and feed us,
Absolutely.
right? And when they fail to do that, ooh, just,
Listen,
ooh.
I tell people all the time, when I tell this story, most people be like, how did you manage this? So growing up, I'm the youngest biological child to my mother. Growing up, I would always feel this disconnect, and I didn't know what the disconnect was. I just knew that I was treated differently. Now, y'all know the rule is if you're the youngest, you're supposed to be getting all the little princess behavior and all that kind of stuff. I did not get that. And so when I was in my 20s, my mother and I were having a conversation, and I said to her, you don't like me, and the family hasn't liked me, and I just need to know why. And she said to me, it's not that I didn't like you. You were born under the duress of me being physically abused by your father. And I knew that having you would keep me connected to him. And I didn't want you. I said, hold on, wait a minute. Is it that you didn't physically want me, or you didn't want the attached situation? Because baby, that head was rolling. I was ready to be like, what do you mean? And she said, I did not want the attachment to the abuse. And in that moment, I learned the importance of understanding somebody else's story and their experience without judgment. I learned that she had sacrificed everything that she knew as a sharecropper's daughter to take care of her mother and her siblings. I learned that she would fight to the ends of the earth for all of her children. But I also learned that she never knew how to love herself. That's trauma that attaches itself in the body of our ancestral trek. And we have to identify how to release. If I had not heard her story, I could have definitely been that bitter woman walking around angry and misunderstood about where we are and who we are, And that is something that I help my clients to understand as they journey through this trauma is maybe we need to understand your parents' journey.
Yes.
Maybe we need to go back. And I'm not saying take them off the hook, because listen, we all have the right to heal. But what I'm saying is when you are going through the healing of trauma, you have to give yourself permission to get off the hook of anger, get off the hook of unforgiveness. Now, I know there's a school of thought among some therapists, you don't have to forgive. Baby, let me tell you. When you don't forgive, you're swinging on this constant pendulum with the same people that caused you hurt. Why not get off the hook?
Yeah, you're basically keeping yourself in prison
Mhm.
with that lack of forgiveness, right? And I love that because here, obviously, at 3D psychotherapy, our foundation is psychodynamic psychotherapy. So we do this, what you're talking about. We go all the way back, all the way back. We get that full arc. We look at those interconnected experiences and help people understand the context of
Mhm.
the experience without judgment and without blame,
Absolutely.
because that will keep them on that pendulum, that will keep them in that place of lack of forgiveness and bitterness and resentment and stuck. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, I think, to get to that healing place, you really have to go through that. And
Yeah.
the only way to go through that is to be open and willing to get to a place of forgiveness.
And confront it. You have to be willing to confront it. It's so funny. The clients that I know that I got to do the most trauma work are the ones that come in and paint this pretty picture about mom and them.
Yes.
I know that we're going to have to get all the way down to some real truths. I talk to my clients and tell them that therapy is like peeling an onion. When you first start peeling an onion, that's when the tears and everything roll, because each layer, that aroma gets thicker and thicker and it makes you cry. But when you get to the sweet pearl of the onion, it doesn't need anything but you to bite it. You're not crying anymore. You're not shedding layers anymore. You're literally living in the authenticity of who you are, healed from your trauma.
Oh, that's so wonderful. So, Mona, do you have any questions for Marcia?
Is this topic of forgiveness
Mhm.
that you brought up when it comes to when you're working with clients, because I even get this sometimes where clients may be resistant towards that forgiveness or whatever the case may be because of the anger that they're holding on to. So how do you really kind of get a client to see that the forgiveness is not really for the other person, it's for them?
So the first thing I do is ask them, are they ready to get off the hook?
Mm.
Are they ready to stop being angry and irritable and self-sabotaging? Are they ready to live and not just exist? And then I go on to explain to them. So I have this big giant hook that I show them that, you're on the tip of this hook and the person that hurt you is on the inside. They can't get off until you get off. You got to
Mm,
decide that it's time for you to forgive. Forgiveness is never to ignore the pain that you've gone through. Forgiveness is really giving yourself the opportunity to live. When I think about unforgiveness, I think about all of the individuals that are diagnosed with high blood pressure and diabetes and congested heart disease. What a lot of people don't realize is when you operate in that space of unforgiveness because you think you're going to hurt them,
mm,
you're really damaging your body. So the buy-in is, do you want to heal?
yeah. Oh, I love that.
Really the question, do you want to heal? This has absolutely nothing to do with them. Here's the truth. You can't change mom and them. They have to want to change themselves. And if you're constantly running into this brick wall, not wanting to forgive because you want them to pay for how they treated you, the only person you're hurting is you, because they still having family get-togethers in their foolishness. And you're sitting there feeling like they don't like me, I'm isolated, that term, I'm the black sheep, all that kind of stuff. That's because you hadn't decided. I'm not saying forgive and then go hang out with them. I'm saying forgive so that you can free your mind, so you can free that space and give yourself the opportunity to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, Marcia, so a couple of questions that we kind of usually ask here at Geeky Clinicians podcast is, so what have been some of your biggest clinical challenges?
Mhm.
And then what have been some of your biggest clinical wins?
So clinical challenges, are always deciding where your journey is going to start. Do you want to work for other organizations like group practices, things like that? Do you want to branch out on a solo journey for yourself? What's your vision? What's your purpose? For me, it was getting started and kind of subletting an office, but I still needed to be in a space that I felt like I belonged.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you're in an office space where you are what I call hoteling, you're in and you're out, and you never have personalization and things of that nature, it doesn't always feel comfortable. To me, you have to position yourself in the space of comfort for yourself as a clinician, but for your clients as well. So that was one of the biggest challenges, one of the biggest fears of, whoo, can I branch out here, be on my own, pay all these bills by myself, that kind of thing. The wins have been branching out on my own, paying all the bills, taking care of my clients, never having a lapse or unstocked books. Because I hear a lot of clinicians that are having problems staffing their books and in their caseloads. I've yet, and I'm so grateful to God for that, I've yet, even during the summer months, have had times where there were lags in care. I keep a wait list. I share with people the honest truth. Listen, if you're going to call me for therapy, you're probably going to be at least 8 weeks out before you see me. And if that doesn't work for you, it's so okay to seek out a therapist that is available. Here's what I would tell you. Get your list of questions to ask. What kind of therapy do you provide? What are some of the tools and modalities? Are you in therapy yourself? How do you see helping me? You want to ask these kind of questions because a lot of times there are mismatches. I get so many clients when they finally get to me, they just break down and cry. And they'll say, man, finally somebody that heard me, somebody that didn't have a script, somebody that didn't have all these homework sheets and all. And I'm not knocking any of that. But I am so far away from textbook therapy. It's boring. And I tell clients that all the time. Listen, if you want a textbook therapist, go ahead and leave now, because I am not she. I don't sit up and write out a blog. We got to do kind of like the ASAM. We got to do in lesson 1, your first session, lesson 2. No, that's boring to me. I need to meet you where you are, and I need to understand your purpose for healing. So those are my challenges and my wins, on top of the fact that every year I get the opportunity to have amazing conferences. I'm doing a conference in April 26th. It's titled the Black Women Conference, where we're going to really talk about the whys behind the anger and the DNA travel, and how to actually move away from the misogynistic trope of angry Black women to understanding that I'm a Black woman, that I may feel anger.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
Mona?
I would love to learn more about this conference in April.
I will send you the link
Okay.
on it when we finish. I'll send it over to you all. I'm super excited. Actually, the way this came around on my podcast, Authentically Peculiar with Marcia, I had someone to reach out to me to ask me how to process and handle anger as a Black woman. So we did a 4-part series, and it's out there on the podcast. We talked about the history of anger. And then my daughter, who is a registered nurse, she hates the camera. So she was behind the scene asking some really relevant questions like, what do you do as a young person who is trying to do everything that they can, and they're constantly being accused of being angry when they're not angry, they're just focused and they're having to do so much. She asked questions about, what do you do as a mom when you may be married and you feel like you have no help? And it comes out as anger. So I encourage anybody to go out there, listen to that. It is on YouTube and Spotify and all that. So I'll send, all those links over to you, but I'm excited. So ultimately, after I posted it, people watched it. And I had someone to come to me and say, you think you can turn this into a conference?
Okay.
And I said, I hadn't thought about it. I said, here's the deal. I don't have time to schedule an additional conference outside of the ones that I already do. If you schedule it, I don't have a problem paying to get it all set up. I just don't have time to schedule it and do all of that. She scheduled it, just sent me the menu because we feed everybody at my conferences. And we set everything up. So that's how it actually birthed. I'm becoming a little bit more, I'm more receptive of people offering to help and not trying to do it all. So yeah, if you all can make it out, come on out. I think that a lot of lives are going to change just from knowing that the anger that they're feeling is something that has been passed through generations, and you don't have to carry those babies anymore.
Absolutely. And so what we're going to do is when you send over those links, we're going to make sure they're in the show notes for this episode, and we'll go out when the show goes out, and links to how to connect with you and all of that will be in the show notes. But that sounds wonderful. Yeah, this idea of, because again, we do get kind of painted as this angry Black woman when all we want to do is just use our voice.
Yep.
We just
Absolutely.
be us. And what, so, okay, I love that. I love that. Yes. And I love how it was birthed as well. Go ahead, Mona. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I love this so much. It is so in alignment with just my passions as to why I do the work that I do, this generational trauma that we have, taken on and healing from within ourselves as Black women. And so on that note,
the truth, Mona, we don't take it on. It's passed on.
Yeah.
We don't literally go out there and say, give me the trauma.
Right.
We wake up and we don't even know why.
This is true.
Yeah. So, man, listen, welcome to the journey, because I'm telling you, lives are going to change. We're living in such a toxic environment right now. People need to shed the trauma.
Yeah.
They need
Yes.
to. It's heavy. Yeah.
And I think we're wanting it more than ever right now, and we're realizing it and we're being aware of it, and we're like, okay, what are we going to do about this? So
Exactly.
I'm looking forward to tapping more into what that conference has to offer. But also too, I'm curious to know, like, on that note of just all that you share with us so far, what are your best hopes for the future of like our profession as clinicians?
My best hope for our future as clinicians is that we continue to feed the masses. We continue to help be the shining light for them to know that it's okay to heal from trauma. It is okay to feel. It is okay to get help. For the population, some of the things that I hope comes down is that we remove the archaic ethics that have not changed, because it's very colonized. It takes away cultural impact into trauma. It is not welcoming as the world is evolving into things such as social media, the use of AI, which I hate, the use of AI for mental health, simply because AI is robbing therapists when we go out there and people are using like ChatGPT and say, hey, clean my note up. They're literally absorbing all of this information and then turning around, placing it on platforms filled with artificial intelligence, then offering therapy. So my hopes is that there's some level of control in the future over that. My hopes that we add more Black and Brown therapists, more Black and Brown PhDs into the mix, because it is a definite imbalance. Anytime you have to go back to their very first APA meeting notes and you recognize that as a Black and Brown person, you weren't even considered human enough to have cognition, it should give you a reason to fight. for our field. And my additional hope is to see more of us on the front and center stages, delivering more TED Talks, delivering more messaging, putting out more books, writing more theoretical modalities. I've got a whole boom head full of things that I know that we can do to change the industry. When I was going through my licensure process, no, pre-licensure, because this was during my residency, my clinical supervisor said to me, "You're going to learn not to think outside of the box. You're going to," what did he say? He said, "You need to have more professional communication." And I said to him, "Dude, you have a clinic in a Black community where the majority of your clients are Black and Hispanic, using the ASAM program as a mandated reporter, a mandated case that they got to report back to the judge, and you want me to use clinical terms. For what? Who's going to benefit from that? How will these clients benefit?" Well, when you look at those type of situations, there was such a revolving door. They just thought about the money. Let's just keep them off the hook enough so that we don't have them the freedom, and they keep coming in paying us, and they keep paying our life bills. I don't want that. I want us to show up, and I want us to help people heal so that we change the dynamics of what mental health is, mental wellness is.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so what a wonderful vision for the future of our profession and our field, decolonizing psychotherapy. And I mean, this is wonderful. This has been such a great conversation, so enlightening, so many nuggets in this conversation. I would love to have you back for a part 2 in the future. You know, with Geeky Clinicians, we also have Geeky Clinicians Academy, where we do continuing education trainings.
Okay.
And I would love to have a side conversation with you about getting on our calendar for maybe doing a 3 or 6 CE on that decolonizing psychotherapy, right? And I think that would be awesome. Oh gosh, yes.
I would love to do that. I did a 6 CU on being a clinician, working with clients that are diagnosed with herpes, because a lot of clinicians, and I think I'm gonna run that back this year, but I'm gonna record it instead of doing it live. But yeah, just let me know. I'll definitely create one. I know that at the time that this probably airs, it may be too late, but I am doing a presentation on for the Black Mental Health Conference on the 28th, discussing how to empower our Black community through trauma and healing. And then I will be back at the LPCA this year, speaking on learning the empowerment of silence in therapy.
Oh, wonderful. That is one of the most powerful tools in the therapy room is silence. Yes. Oh, Marcia, I'm so glad to meet you. Oh my God.
Me too. I know. Hugs. And I'll be reaching out to you all because I am setting up the season for Authentically Peculiar with Marcia so that I can bring different guests on. My most recent book is entitled Tell the Past to Go to Hell. So we'll be talking about how we can release trauma, and how, like with Mona's holistic approaches, how that she can help guide even the younger generation, and how Reiki can come into play, and why it's so important to understand the alignment of all your chakras. Because we need to know, here's the real truth. All of this came from Africa.
Yep.
Ain't nothing new under the sun, baby. We've been doing this. We just packaged it differently.
Yes.
We just packaged it differently.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Oh, lovely, lovely, lovely. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being our guest. I'm looking forward to future collaborations and connections with you. This is awesome. And so for People who are watching, of course, like and subscribe and share to this Geeky Clinicians podcast channel. And we will see you guys next time. We are out. Bye.